What you see behind me is a canal, a branch of a canal that was actually built by Joseph, the Joseph of the Bible.
All right, let's see it.
This branch, along with the main canal, was known from ancient times. The earliest name we know about, the canal was called Joseph Sea.
This is entirely false. The name Bar Yusuf, or Sea of Joseph, originates in the Islamic period, and this canal had multiple names in multiple languages prior to that. In ancient Egyptian, it was referred to as the Tamat, which means the end or the last canal or something like that, and that was transliterated into ancient Greek as the Thomas Potamos, or the Thomas River. Another name in ancient Greek was the Diorix Megali, which means the Great Canal, and then in Demotic it was referred to as the Canal of Moeris, and Lake Moeris is the lake in the Fayum that is fed by the Bar Yusuf, which was not constructed by Joseph, but is the result of a natural breakthrough of the flooding Nile River into lower-lying areas, creating what we now know as the Fayum. And while that was seasonal and primarily existed during periods of flooding, in the 12th dynasty, in the 19th century BCE, there were a series of pharaohs who engineered it and made it bigger so that there would be more water that would be fed into Lake Moeris, and so that it would have more consistent water flow as well. And there are absolutely no data whatsoever that connect any of this to the biblical Joseph.
The entire project was a 180-mile canal that got up into this area and branched out. And this is one of the branches of that canal. That canal was built because Joseph knew a famine was coming. And so what he did was he created this area that could produce food and water for a lot of people and store the grain.
So in addition to the fact that there are absolutely no data of any kind whatsoever that connect any of this to the biblical Joseph, and the story in the Bible of Joseph never mentions the construction of anything, much less a canal, that branch of the canal is actually less than 200 years old. That's called the Sela Channel, and it does branch off of the Bar Yusuf, but it was constructed in the late 1820s. You can check out this paper here from the journal Geoarchaeology. It's entitled An Examination of Groundwater Within the Hawara Pyramid, Egypt, and it talks about how, as part of these hydrological improvements, a new subsidiary canal, the Bar Sela, was constructed in the late 1820s to take water from the Bar Yusuf to the northeastern part of the Fayum. And on that map you can see in the red circle, that's where Frank is standing, and that square is a pyramid he's about to talk about. So that branch of that canal is not even 200 years old, so cannot possibly go back to the biblical Joseph.
Now, just right next to this canal is this mud brick pyramid. This pyramid was of unknown origin until 1968, when a Polish team of archaeologists came here and discovered that bricks inside it were stamped with the name Amenemhat III. Amenemhat III, that name meant to the invisible God.
This is entirely made up. The name means absolutely no such thing whatsoever. You can look in James Allen's introduction to Middle Egyptian to see that it actually means Amun in front, and is a dedication to the Egyptian deity Amun of Thebes.
If you look further toward this area where all those people are walking, have been discovered a number, thousands actually, of storehouses of grain. These are the grain houses, the storehouses that Joseph had built during the 7 years of plenty prior to the 7 years of famine.
So there is a large mortuary complex associated with that pyramid that has in the neighborhood of 3,000 rooms associated with it. But not even the majority, much less all of them, are for grain storage. There is grain storage there as a part of that mortuary complex, but it is there to serve that mortuary complex. In other words, it is intended for the folks who built and maintained that mortuary complex, and then for the mortuary cult to ensure the continued offerings are made. So this has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any biblical Joseph. And the story of Joseph in the Bible does not mention the construction of storehouses for grain. So this is all entirely made up. Absolutely no data whatsoever support it. This is an attempt to read biblical accuracy into entirely unrelated archaeological data. And the fit for this video has been Superman.